Yeah, she's sitting right next to the microphone, staring at me.
Gotcha. Hey guys, it's Todd with Project 9 Life. We'll get going in a second. Welcome to Personal Development Hacks. We've got a special guest, so get a water or pen and paper, whatever you need, and we'll get going in a second, okay? All right, guys. So on tonight's episode, we've got a special guest. I'll bring her now. This is Wendy, and she is with TBR Spiritual Health. So, hi, Wendy. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm doing great.
Yeah, I've got no complaints. That's for sure. The sun's out again, and oddly enough, I have to start watering stuff again. So, but that's a different story for a different show. So,
Right.
why don't you introduce yourself and tell us all kind of what you're about?
Yeah, so I'm Wendy with TBR Spiritual Health. I help inspire people and empower them to find their truest forms of themselves, get over the trauma of divorce, whether you're a child of divorce, you're thinking about divorce, you're currently going through it, or you've been a family member affected by somebody else going through divorce. Maybe you lost a friend because of the divorce situation. I want to help you with your mindset, your communication, your energy, and your inner relationships in relationship to overcoming trauma from divorce.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's it's. I mean, obviously, I'm glad you're here. But speaking of like with the relationships, because we all know that there's one of three things that most people set resolutions about: health, wealth, and relationships. Unfortunately, for some people out there, and it seems to be a growing number, but there are more and more kids and adults that are going through life post-divorce or something like that, and the trauma that can have on a child is just, I mean, it can be catastrophic if it's not.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a child of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were divorced twice and married 3 times, and I was 8, so I was old enough to know that my family had been torn apart, right? But I was young enough to where I didn't have the mental capacities to get over it like my sister did, because my sister's 2 years older. That 8 and 10, that 2-year difference right there is amazing. How developmentally different. I have actually blocked out my entire childhood prior to 8. So I don't remember the memories of my family being together. That's traumatic. The only reason I have any of those stories is because they're told to me.
Yeah, that's, and it's not just the like you said, the age of the mental development between 8 and 10, but they've done tests and stuff like that where you have twins, but if they're either brought up in different areas or they experience the same thing, they can have two
totally different outlooks, right?
Different reactions to it, where let's say your sister was a twin with you and you could be not obviously wanting to, but you've blocked out that age and they've embraced that age.
Right. And that's exactly what happened. My sister took it at, my parents were amicable during the divorce. They worked with each other. And so she took that as a thing that she wanted to develop in her relationship, in her marriage, how you're supposed to work together and talk to each other and communicate and all that stuff. That's what she took from it. What was imprinted for me was, you're supposed to do everything that you can in order to make your man happy, because I was raised in a very traditional Christian household. So it's really interesting, those two different imprints, mental imprints, that living in the same household, experiencing the same things, and yet you take away two totally different things.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so in terms of like what you do and helping people deal with that, kind of what's the, I guess the biggest hurdle for, obviously for clients like yours and clients like mine, who my clients might not have a divorce, but they have a less than ideal relationship. What are some of the key points that you teach people to focus on to help get them back in a healthier mindset or a healthier place?
So one of my biggest beliefs is that you cannot build trust without communication. Communication is key. The 5 pillars that I teach people are self-ownership, self-leadership, self-awareness, the trailblazing skills, and effective communication, right? So own your nuances, own the little pieces that make up who you are, and then learn how to communicate that effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whatever your agreements are, like the agreements that our parents put on us as they rear us, right? Do all of those agreements that we got from them, do they, as an adult, as an individual, do they now work for us, or do we need to change those agreements, and what do we want to change them to so that we can build the healthier relationships that we want?
Right. Yeah, and it's I mean, communication is really the key to pretty much anything. Is
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, being true to yourself, knowing that there is no such thing as a perfect person. There is no such thing as a perfect, I'm looking for the one. They don't exist. It's like, it's like I talk about, I'm going to plan this. And so when I do launch this new program, it'll be perfect. Well, you're going to be waiting for the next 50 years for the stars and sun and everything to align. And it's the same thing. It's like, you got to be true to yourself, and you got to know your nuances and openly communicate them to the other party, to your kids. I mean, I remember when, I made my kids children of divorce because I divorced, but, I, at that point, was very keen on openly communicating that their mom loved them, I love them, our situation is different. And they would come back from school, saying things like, their parents are still together, these parents are this and this. And I was like, look, that's, everyone's got different family types. This is ours. And
Yep.
this is 100% us and what we make of it. To be able to, have them develop knowing that they still have 2 parents that love them. They just aren't together, so.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's amazing. And I think you're, steps ahead of other people, or at least my parents' generation that didn't necessarily communicate all those things. I mean, yes, I know that both my parents loved me, but then they brought in other, the step families.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to integrate step families. And neither one of them picked had good choices there.
Yeah, just go ahead and spit that out. Yeah.
They just didn't. I mean, both of my step families lied to and stole from each other and tried to steal from us. And it was literally just chaos. And, trying to navigate that whole integrating other families or even another partner, whether it's you finding another partner or the mom finding another partner, but
Mm-hmm.
just communicating that there's a million ways that a family can look like.
Yeah, there's every day that goes by, there are fewer and fewer family trees that look like this. Most of them kind of look like this,
Right?
Where, are we related? That's a common question at like a family get together. How are we related?
Right.
How distant of a cousin does that make it? I don't even know.
My maternal grandmother's one of 16.
Oh, yeah.
From Scotland, right? So yeah, our family tree. So speaking of that, like I went to Scotland last year to go look at family property that her grandfather was raised on. And it just so happened that I met up with the president of the Historical Society, and she figured out how we were related.
Of course. Yeah, it's, you know, it speaks a lot to, you know, like it doesn't matter where you go, it's still a pretty small world.
Yeah, I mean, we're all related, right? We all came from the same atoms or the same piece of dust or whatever you want to believe, right?
Yeah.
All come from the same source. So we're all related, and if we could treat each other that way, right? The way I want to be treated is the way I treat other people, so that it'll reflect back on, right? The reciprocation.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, it's, I've heard it said that way, obviously, you know, treat others the way that you want to be treated. But I think a more appropriate is like treat other people the way that they want to be treated.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
You know, if it's how you want to be treated, it might be completely different than what that, you know, it could be a significant other or just a friend or just a stranger or a networking person that you're meeting. They may be completely different, but, you know, if you can adapt and speak to people on their level, the more gain is to be had for both parties. And it's not that you're giving or anything like that. It's just you're speaking to them at a level and a language and whatever that they're at. So they're more apt to then evolve and open up and, you know, in your case, like share what needs to be shared to actually work through and make progress through a divorce than anything else, you know?
Right. So to dissect that just a little bit more, right? So I lead with love and understanding, first and foremost with everybody, because that's how I want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point, right, then you niche down to the person that you're speaking to, and you try and find the vocabulary that works for them, the love language that works for them, right? All the other things that you were referring to, that goes into a little bit deeper of my initial comment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, this is just a personal view, but like, you know, everyone on this planet is different, you know, and everyone gets categorized, you know, you're Hispanic or you're Caucasian or you're Indian or all this sorts of different stuff. And then you throw religion into it. And now it's like, you got even more. Honest to God, in my view, there's only two types of people that exist in the world. There's jerks. So don't be a jerk. That's it. If you say something to someone, just very simply, hey, how's it going? And they decide to shut it down, then don't take it personally. Just that's not right. Something you want to associate with.
Right.
But most people you'll find are not that way. You know, if you just say hi to the most random of people, you see it all the time. People are just egging. They're just wanting so bad, like human contact and a conversation, that if you just say something as simple as, hey, how's it going today? A half hour later, you may be like, I have to go get some lettuce, you know?
Right.
You know, but yeah. I look at that through like what we just talked about and say, that is an element, just basic common sense, you know, basic conversation about what's going on that they're missing elsewhere in their lives. And they could be married, could not be, could have kids, don't, whatever, friends, whatever, but they don't talk to anyone. And you give them that opening and they take it. And it's not, you can tell it's an aspect of that is missing truly from their life, that you just sit there and you listen, you know, and let them go through whatever, and you don't correct or, you know, oh, well, your significant other must be thinking this. You don't want to do that, but you just sit there and listen to people. And that's, I think, with you helping people with that, it's got to be the same thing where you ask a few open-ended questions, and if people are willing to talk, you just let them, because that's them just airing and getting stuff in the open. Because if it's in the open, they're not holding it in, and it's, it speaks to energy, right? The more of that, they for a long time they thought that like your energy was kind of stored in your head, and more recently they found that the energy is actually stored in your heart. So if you let them get that off of their heart and into the public, then they feel like they're not the only one in it, and they've got someone that they can trust that now knows with all this stuff, and they're more confident to be able to share more at that point.
Right. And if I want my clients to open up, I also need to be open, right? And this is part of the self-ownership that I teach, is finding that strength and vulnerability to be open, to share, and so that others, you're relatable to others. They don't feel alone. They know that, they're not the only one dealing with divorce or whatever it is that they're dealing with. They're not the only ones, right? Mm-hmm. So if I want my clients to come in and open up and share and get whatever it is out that they need to release, then I also have to be in that space. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is why I wrote my book, Verbal Turbulence, because the 70-20-10 rule that I was given in a work space changed my entire life, because I then turned it around and looked at how people communicate. And I realized that 70% of what most people communicate or project is their own stuff, their own beliefs, their own emotions, their own thoughts, just their own stuff. 20% might be some sort of combination between their stuff and the person that they're talking to, but only 10% is directly personal to the person that they're speaking with. Mm-hmm. What are you projecting? What are you saying? Are you actively listening? Are you just waiting for your time to speak? Or are you thinking about what to say next? Those are the three, those are usually the three categories that people fall into. And I was one of those people that was projecting 70% of my stuff. And eventually I turned it around, and now 70% of what I project is directly to the person that I'm speaking with.
Yeah. Well, it's the old adage, you shouldn't listen to respond. You should listen to understand.
Right. But most people don't.
Correct. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think some of these things were written so long ago, by some fairly foresightful people who had seen a trend very early on, and people kind of becoming more reclusive, and it's focused on their own stuff. And they saw it long ago, and these reminders and these things that come out. I think I told you yesterday that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the TED Talk that he gave, he talked about how, especially today in the social media environment in which we live, where everyone's got a phone, everyone's always on their phone, everyone's filming, everyone's all this stuff about, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm at. And he's like, the downfall is that people in this world, they're out there to attract attention.
Yep.
But they should be out in the world to give attention. You don't want to, or to pay attention. You don't want to
pay attention.
It can't be all about you. But if you're out there and you're just trying to pay attention to what other people are saying, people's body language, their reaction to just hey, how's it going? the person I gave you earlier, it's not personal, because anyone could have walked up to that person and said, hey, how's it going? And would have got the same reaction. But how many of those people would have then reacted back and said something like, man, I don't have to be a jerk. I was just trying to say hi. Now all of a sudden you got an escalation where, it was, hey, how's it going? No answer. All right. Well, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah. Good luck to you. I hope you have a great day. Right. Yeah. It's also about responding versus reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you can respond with forethought, responding is with thought, right? So versus reacting is with emotions, right? So if we can even encourage people to think before responding or reacting, then I think a lot of personal interactions will be much improved, right? The guy driving down the freeway, the guy that cut you off, it's not personal. He doesn't know you. He doesn't, he's just, or they are just doing their thing and not paying attention.
Right. Yeah. They're just focused on, I got to get to work in 6 minutes and I'm 10 minutes away.
Right.
They're not focused on, the mother with a young child in the back seat who's screaming bloody murder, but she knows that her number one priority is safety. And so she might be going a little bit slower or whatever. And sometimes that can end in God knows what kind of, or whatever, whatever that ends up being. But you're right. It is about response, not about reaction. And that's something that, if you're in the mindset of knowing that the biggest benefit is to respond, not react, you'll take that beat. And if you were the reactive type, where someone says something and you go to level 10 automatically.
Right. How many people in their cars start cursing and yelling at the car ahead of them that just cut them off?
Oh, yeah.
Right? That would be reacting.
Mm-hmm.
How about just saying, you know what? You do your thing. God bless you. I hope you get to where you're going safe.
Yeah, I'm going to slow back a little bit more because God knows the next car you cut off might not have the same response.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's all it is, because sometimes it just takes just a beat, to something happen, and you just kind of respond, don't react, and then be like you said, have a good one. Good luck to you.
Right.
That car is about to pass as a cop, but I'm not going to say anything.
Right, because some people will react, right? You blah, 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 blah. Have that negative reaction, and then how does that ripple effect into the rest of their day?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because then they might, holding on to that reaction, holding on to that energy of it, that emotion of it, when they go into the coffee shop or when they finally do get to work, are they now responding with that same energy and that same reaction versus somebody that's just like, you know what? I'm going to slow my roll. I'm going to back off a little bit. You do you. They're going to be in a much different space once they get to work or once they get home with their loved ones or whatever. They're going to be in a much different emotional and energetic state, much more pleasant one. I need to set my window.
Oh, yeah. No, you're fine. So she's going to tend to the lawn.
Sorry about that.
Leaf blower, whatever. We love that.
Sorry about that. They were already here this morning. I don't know why they're back again.
Hey, maybe they missed a spot. But you're right. Like say you take that car example, and that person that they're in their zone, they're hauling butt, because they've only got a certain amount of time to get to work, and say they show up and they're still late, what percentage chance do you think that person is going to have a productive day in any aspect?
It's going to be a small percentage.
Because they're going to get to work, their boss is going to see them, they're going to go right in there. I'm sorry, I know I was late. I was driving like a bat out of hell. And then the first thing they're going to do is say, but it was their fault, right?
Well, and just being in that mindset of, dang it, I was late, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. All the negativity that's rolling around in their head now, and the chaotic energy, right? The defensiveness of having to go into their boss and say, oh, but it was their fault. Yeah. Oh, but it was this. Oh, my alarm clock didn't go off, right? That chaotic energy. And now they got to try and focus all of that into work. Yeah. They're not going to be as effective.
Yeah. And the first thing they're going to do is go grab a cup of coffee, which is a stimulant, which is going to make it worse. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And then they're going to be at the water cooler with their coworker.
Oh, yeah.
Gossiping and creating and passing along that negative talk, that negative energy.
Yep. All right. So, Wendy, there's a couple things that I want to get into, but I want to give you the opportunity first to just kind of share exactly what we've been talking about and where they can find you. And I got your banner up there on the bottom.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, my website is tbrspiritualhealth.com. I'm on the 5 major social links: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and all the handles are at TBR Spiritual Health. I have some meditation videos. I talk about my 5 pillars, and I host some healthy living classes on Monday nights, and I record those classes and put that up for content on my YouTube channel. So check it out for all kinds of great information. And you can also, on my website, you can book a free 30-minute discovery call with me. No obligation, no cost, no anything. If you want to learn more about me and about what I do, I would love to just have a free little 30-minute chat. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, it didn't really cost you much.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's and talk about, you said you are writing or wrote a book, just waiting for publishing.
Yeah, so right now it's with all the professionals getting uploaded into KDP and getting up on Amazon and all the things. So it's going to get published this month. It's called Verbal Turbulence, the 70-20-10 rule. It explains all the chaos that I've been through as a child and why my communication was angry and selfish and chaotic, and the 70-20-10 rule that I used to change that around so that it's healthy and therapeutic.
Good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's an amazing book.
I will add that to my growing library for sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, I demonstrate 16 different ways.
Copy. I won't complain.
Right? Anybody that has me on their show will get a free copy of my book.
All right, fair enough. All right.
Right. So in the book, I demonstrate 16 different ways on how to use the 70-20-10 rule, not just in communication, but also in business.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, and then for me, guys, it's down below, the info at Project 9 Life. We've got a variety of different products available to you. By far the best, kind of the quickest, self-paced, but get you going as quick as possible is our Get Started program. It's a half-hour video. It's the worksheet. In the video, we'll explain the kind of the thought processes and the mindset and what you need to focus on during your goals, so that you can actually achieve them instead of repeating them, and get going and living your best life. So if you just email us, put Get Started in the subject line, and then just indicate if you want to pay with a credit card or Venmo, and we can send you the link. And then as soon as it's paid, we'll get that out to you, and heck, get it now, and you can start this afternoon or tomorrow. So, all right, Wendy. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about, like you said, something about living the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I know I know a lot of your focus is on, because you come from that. So obviously you're a dead on expert in, children to divorce or creating children in divorce, stuff like that. But speak a little bit about the best version of yourself, because that coincides exactly with what I'm talking about. Just we use different vocabulary. You say best version of yourself. I say live your best life.
Right. So to me, it's hard to be the best version of yourself or live your best life if you have repressed memories, right? If you're holding on to memories or energy or emotions from a past issue, from a past event, a past conversation, whatever it is, if you're still holding on to those, it creates a energy blockage somewhere in your energy system, right? So traditional Chinese medicine talks about how one negative thought creates an energy blockage somewhere in your energy system, right? So if you don't clear that energy, then that blockage is going to be there, right? Which means that system cannot work as effectively and efficiently as it could if it didn't have a blockage in the system, right? So kind of think about plumbing, right? The more hair gets down into the plumbing lines, right, the more it clogs it up. And eventually you're going to have to snake the drain.
I have yet to have to do that.
Well, my ex-husband's had to do that a lot. I haven't had to do that either, but they have had to do it.
Fair enough.
Right? So our energy systems are a lot the same way. If we don't pour some Drano, or if we don't clear our energy systems, then they're not working as efficiently and productively as they could be. So depending on what theology that you prefer, right? So you were talking about how the energy's in the head, and now they're saying the energy's in the heart, right? According to Dr. Donna Eden, and I went through her whole book personally myself, we have 9 different energy systems in our bodies, right? And then there's the theology of polarity, just like the energy or the earth has the polarity system, right? That goes around the earth, we do as well, right? And then there's reflexology, where it's the reflection of your body in the hands, feet, face, and ears. Those are all energy modalities, right? So depending on which one works for you, which one of those tools works for you, will depend on whether or not we can clear that energy so that those systems that are related to that, the endocrine system, right? So if we're talking about chakras, for example, right? The heart chakra. If the heart chakra is not spinning in the right direction, or if it's not in balance, or it's weak in energy or overstrong in energy, then you're going to be too open for love, or you're going to be too closed off for love, or you're going to start having heart issues or acid reflux, right? You're going to start having physical manifestations somewhere in that area, right? Another theology believes that the lungs and the rib cage are representation of grief and mourning. So if you're not releasing the energy from, let's say, a past loved one or friend that has passed away, and you haven't released those emotions, you haven't released the energy of it, you could develop asthma or COPD or other related breathing difficulties because you haven't released that. And if those air is the fundamental factor to life, fresh air. So if you're not breathing in fresh life, then it's getting stale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things, this is what I do. I release the emotions. I help you release the energy so that you're functioning in the most appropriate, effective, proficient manner. And then you can be your truest, most authentic self. Because then you're not using medications to deal with the asthma. You're not dealing with medications to deal with thyroids. I had one energy session with a lady with hyperthyroid. And a week later, she went to her doctor and her thyroid dropped 30 points out of one energy system. And she was able to get off of her medication and just focus on nutrition. The ripple effect that that is going to have for her, she's already feeling increased energy levels, which means she's going to be more mobile. When she's more mobile, she's going to start losing weight, and that whole ripple effect, right? So that is kind of what I do.
Yeah, because like if you think about it, like exactly what you're talking about, if between health, wealth, and relationships, those three kind of big categories that people tend to focus on with resolutions or goals or whatever. But to your point, like if you start on a health benefit and you start just walking, you start seeing difference, people start to notice. They're going to make comments like, hey, you're looking good. You're doing good. You're looking more fit. That builds your confidence. You don't think it's not just confidence in you. You don't think that's going to make you more confident in your job or with your family and your spouse or whatever. It's kind of like you focus one, but that energy and those positive feelings and that reinforcement and the confidence that it gives you, it's going to impact all areas, even if it's not an area of focus. It's and that's the greatest thing. It's like I think as human beings anymore, we all have kind of shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, that's new. Oh, that's new. Let me try this. Let me try that. Whereas if you have a singular focus on something that you're truly focused on, you set your schedule based on it. You've got your inspiration that you found based on it. You've informed your family about what you're doing and why you're doing it and the benefit. And that becomes your intentional focus. You're not going to notice that, all of a sudden it's 6 hours into a day at work and you're like, I'm done. Oh, well, I must have been more efficient with it. And then you get ahead. And then, those days where it's like you get off early or you get in earlier so you can get off early because you got this energy and this focus and you're feeling confident. And you'd be like, grabbing your spouse and be like, let's go dancing or let's go walk and go see Red Rocks or whatever.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all areas of your life start to improve, similar to like what you said. She releases that one energy, thyroid numbers get bad, comes off of her medication. Now she can start working out. Now she'll start losing weight. So it's like everything kind of falls in line after you start making progress just on one single thing.
Absolutely. So what is that, right? So then you have to kind of decide like what is the one thing that you want to work on first.
Well, and that's true. And that's, that becomes a reaction, not a response when people ask that question. Hey, what's your biggest goal? They're going to automatically go to, got to lose weight, got to get more money. I want to feel like my relationship matters. I mean, it's almost a reaction, because unfortunately it's what they've said for the last decade come New Year's, the same thing.
Right. They're saying it out of repetition.
Yeah.
And not right. So that's where the deeper questions, the more open-ended questions come in handy, because then it's like, okay, you want to lose weight. You want to lose weight. That's great. How do you want to do that? Right.
And to tie the two things that you were talking about with that repressed memory that could be 30 years ago that's holding up your energy.
Yeah.
As part of the program with us, it's, when your goal is great, and we'll get you to focus on lifetime, not short time, so that it doesn't matter if it's June 21st, you can start today. Today is your New Year's, right? Yeah. And, it doesn't have to wait until January, but so you get your goal out and you've got it correct to where it's like, I can do this for the rest of my life, and it'll impact the rest of my life. And then we start asking why it's important, who it's important to, what it is. And I found that a lot of times when they really get drilled down to what their true why is, it has something to do with something that happened to them as a kid. They got called fat when they were 7 years old, mm-hmm. or Mary Ellen broke up with them in 8th grade and said that, she didn't treat him right, or he didn't treat her right, or something. Or, your dad was always saying, buddy, just graduate high school, graduate college, go work for a big company and stay in line, and that memory they can dwell on. And instead of having it held in and blocking our systems, man, the best thing is use that pain as your fire and just have it burn you to motivate you and inspire you to do something about it. And that's, it could be through, obviously you got the client with the thyroid. She's going to start living a great life because mm-hmm. that's unblocked. And I've got plenty of clients that are like, what they really looked at was that one event. And I had a client who was like, his name was Tom, the kid. He's like, he was a popular kid in school and he always called me fat. And he's like, at some point, motivation wears off and I became what Tom said I was. And his ultimate motive, his inspiration is, he's got like a 30-year high school reunion or something come up. He's like, I'm going to show up and not be fat. I'm like, go, dude, you found it. Every morning that you wake up and it's crappy out and you're thinking about not getting your walk in or not doing your workout, remember what Tom said, because that never leaves. And that's the difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation can be fleeting, Right. I've told the story, we all get either through Facebook or a calendar or an app or whatever, like the motivation daily, right? And there was one that it was this fjord in Norway. It's pretty famous, and just ice blue water, huge mountains, and on the edge there's this rock that sticks out over like a 2,000-foot cliff. And people always take pictures walking out on it because you're basically standing on a rock and then nothingness, right? And right then, I'll tell you why motivation is fleeting. I saw that. I immediately turned off of it. I'm afraid of heights. That did nothing I didn't even read it, but my kids are always there. So that's the biggest difference is, that picture did nothing. My daughter looked at me in the eye, knowing that I promised her what I was going to do and why, and they were the reason why. And her looking at me going, "You going for your walk?" Me saying, "Yeah, I'll go later." And her going, "How about now?" I'll be damned if I didn't put my shoes on and get out the door right then.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it kind of ties the two worlds together of, unlocking some of that stuff so that you can get out and live your best life or be the best version of yourself. It's the same basic thing.
Yeah.
People want more than what they know how to get,
Right.
And that's the challenge for both of us is to get through to people that there's nothing stopping you.
There's not, right. So what I find is that some people hold back because they're afraid. Well, I don't know how to do that. Okay, find somebody that does know how to do that and let them show you how to do it. You didn't learn how to ride a bike just by getting on it and moving your legs and figuring it out for yourself. Somebody showed you how to do it.
Yep.
So are you going to let the fear or whatever it is that's holding you back, are you going to allow it to hold you back? Or are you going to be like, okay, I need the help. This is what I want to accomplish. I don't know how to do it myself. Let me see if I can find the right person for me. Unfortunately, it's a lot like dating. You do have to find the right person that resonates with you, that has the right message for you, all the things. And let me see if I can find that person so that they can show me how to do this, right? And that's where the ego, I think, kind of holds us back, is because, oh, I'm 40 something years old or 50 something years old. I should know how to do this by now. And I don't want to look like an idiot by going to ask for help. You don't. You look like you're strong enough to look for help.
Yeah. And we talked about it, you know, every successful person out there, you know, it could be rich, it could just be they're wealthy. I'll tell you this, some of the most successful people on this planet you've never heard of, because they obey one rule. They let their progress be private, and they don't let anyone know what they got going on. They just go and live their life every day, and it's very private to them. And then you look, and they're worth $3 billion and own God knows what. But you know, it's one of four things that people that people will not give a full effort towards a goal. First is comfort. They get to a stage to where it's like, I'm fine. You know, if I go now, I'll miss Seinfeld or whatever, you know, and they're just comfortable. They have no desire, they have no passion, no burning to do something else. They're comfortable, and they're always going to be there. There's people that their goal isn't big enough, and it's a big one. You know, I want to lose 5 pounds. It's like, why? Go on a starvation diet for 5 days. There's your 5 pounds. Now you're going to gain 10 back, but you know, you hit your goal. You got to make it. That's why I get people to focus on long time versus short time, because you want your goals to be something that are going to impact your life, not impact the next 2 months, right? And then there's fear of failure, like, oh God, if I put myself out there, I'm going to seem weak. If I ask for help, I'm going to seem weak. All this stuff. Or there's fear of success.
There is.
You know, like, if I make this and I start making progress, how many people am I going to alienate? Are my friends going to be upset? You know, because all of a sudden we're going to take this killer 2-week vacation, or because my wife and I are joyously happy. But, you know, with those most successful people, they've learned one thing. They all have coaches.
They surround themselves with people that know things that they don't know, because you can't possibly know everything about everything. So they surround themselves with a sea of people that know different things than what they do, or have a different approach to what they do. So they open their minds to all these different perspectives. Right? So, you know, I think that's really important. And going through these changes, there are going to be relationship changes. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there's people around you right now that you don't need that aren't healthy for you.
No,
and
if you want to
develop healthier, you need to meet new people and develop healthier relationships.
Yeah. If you want to be a millionaire, go hang out with millionaires, right? Like, if you want to be a millionaire and truly make that progress towards that, you know, it, like, you can't surround yourself with people who have no desire to do that and are making their 80 grand a year. if you want to achieve that wealth and that level of financial success, go hang out with people that have done it. Because the most successful people, they do one thing very, very well. They share. They will give you the blueprint for free, basically, almost.
Yeah, they will.
Here, please don't make the same mistakes I made, and follow these steps, or follow this, whatever. And I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but as you grow, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful. But
right. And
the other side of that is like, I didn't make these mistakes, and yeah, it was tough and it was challenging. I made some brand new mistakes, but if someone asks me, I'm going to share what they told me, and I'm going to share what I added to it.
Right, because they do want you to make mistakes, because without the mistakes, you don't learn what does and what does not work. Right, so they want you to make mistakes, but they want you to make your mistakes. They want you to learn the lessons that you need to learn, and then they will be there to support you.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time. In the history of the world, there has never been anyone that's failed. They've just learned.
Yes.
Edison learned 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb.
Right, and one worked, and
right, and thousands didn't. But you have to have that mindset of, you're going to challenge. You're going to strive for something that's not quite going to get there. Just be that plane from LA to Miami, course correct, but keep going. I mean, yes, it might be 3 days where you're going good, and then you kind of hit this, and then you course correct, and then you take a couple small steps before you get going again. That's not failing. That's just fall. You're gonna fall. Just fall forward.
Right. So how can you be mentally nimble enough to be able to course correct, to be able to take a pause and be like, okay, this direction isn't getting me to Miami. So what do I need to do? What tools do I need to learn? And it's not just in the financial industry. That's in weight loss or anything else that you want to do. Figure out how to course correct. And part of what I do is get you to tune in to yourself and to your spirit, and figure out what's in alignment and what resonates with you. One of the things that, man, it was such a beautiful moment yesterday when I was on somebody else's show, and I asked a question. I'm like, how can you possibly expect your life, your home where you're raising your kids, your work, or even feeling good in your body, how can you expect those to feel good and be harmonious if you are not making the decisions that are in alignment with your spirit, that are in alignment with you? So how do you take a step, just pause for a moment, and ask yourself, ask your higher self, ask your spirit, whatever it is that you believe in, but ask yourself, do I really want those cookies on the shelf? And if your self says no, and you buy them anyways, you are not making a decision that is in alignment with yourself, and that has a ripple effect, right? So if you want your home, if you want your finances, if you want your work life to be harmonious, you have to start with making decisions that are in alignment with yourself, that resonate with you.
Yeah, and you have to be within yourself enough to know the temptations that are out there. Like, if you are just a dead-on donut guy, right? It's like you find yourself and there's always 6 donuts just sitting around, and you're like, what the hell? Well, you kept buying them, but there's a very donut at your house. Get out of the bakery aisle.
Right.
Just don't go down there. That way you're not even tempted by it.
Right.
Just draw a different route through the grocery store or whatever, but avoid putting yourself in a situation where you have to make a choice, because you've already made the choice. I want to cut this out of my diet, so I have no other reason to go over there. Same kind of thing with money. I keep spending money on this. Stop it. Yeah, I mean, if it's a mortgage or a car or whatever, yeah, obviously keep doing those, but
Right.
Whatever. All right, Wendy, we got about 45 seconds left, so parting shots, your turn.
Parting shots. Check out my website, see what I do, check out my social links, sign up for a free 30-minute discovery session, check out the page on my website about my book. I hope that you add it to your reading list. It's going to be out very soon. And just ask yourself, what can the 70-20-10 rule do for you? How can it change your communication and change your relationships?
That's awesome. And I will make sure to get the exact date that comes out for the book and let everyone know. But other than that, guys, have a great evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you.